We're here because we share a common belief, which is that our future cannot be more of the same. Something has to change. We cannot continue with another 1,000 years like the last 1,000. It is doubtful whether we can continue for another 100 years like the last 100. We are the M generation. We are the generation of a new millennium, and we are only in the first days of working out how our world can continue to survive within it. And it might be the fact that we will have 9 billion people by 2050. 1 billion children alive this morning, all of whom will be adults soon and wanting your lifestyle. Big issues. And yet, despite the fact that many, many people talk with doom and despair, I believe in the future. I often say this: either we take hold of our future, or the future will take hold of us. Either we see the future as something we create, invent, change, and manage, or we just find ourselves reacting to global trends. I'm a futurist. I happen to think that most of the problems of the world can be fixed, that we do not have to be just reacting to the past, but we can shape tomorrow. I am certain of this, that almost all of the world's greatest challenges can be fixed by entrepreneurs working together with banks, with venture capitalists, with multinationals, with governments. Last Friday, I was with the ministers of transport from 50 nations, from Russia, China, India, Sweden, Denmark, France. They were grappling with issues relating to environment, aviation, road transport, global warming, carbon use, battery technology, and a host of other things. One message was clear: even without any more technology innovation, we could fix most of these great problems just by rolling out on a massive way the technologies we already have, which is very encouraging. Now, let's take a journey inside ourselves. I'm a futurist. I work with many of the largest companies in the world: Google, Microsoft, people like ExxonMobil, BP, GlaxoSmithKline, and many of the largest governments. And these are some issues that I see. You know, we can talk about many issues of sustainability. Yes, global warming is huge, but we could also talk about the threat from new viruses to the future of humankind. I'm a physician in my first training. We could talk about the unsustainable contrasts between the wealthiest and the poorest of the poor. If we don't solve this, the greatest moral challenge of our day, we could see new terrorist forces grow up that could make Al-Qaeda look like a single mosquito bite. We could talk about the urbanization of our world, the fact that 300 million people in China will move from rural areas to cities in the next 10 years alone. And that will create one of the greatest demands we have ever seen for new innovation about the way that we manage our cities and construct our buildings. And we could talk also about a sustainable model for global finance. So sustainability has to be seen in a wide context. But you know what? The future is not actually about innovation. It's not actually about technology. Talking of which, we will see in a moment, I'm going to call up 9 tremendous entrepreneurs. We're going to have a competition before we go to coffee. You are going to decide who will win the innovation competition. Each of them will have 60 seconds only to present their case, and already they're thinking about it. And just a few moments, you'll all be up around here, and we will hear your visions of the future. And they're very exciting. But you know what? The future, my friends, is not just about innovation. The most important driver of the future is not politics. It's not even multinationals. And it's certainly not the internet. The future will be driven by one word. And let me let me just tell you a brief story. I was recently in New York staying in a multi-story hotel, and there were only 2 lifts working that day. I was on lift floor 3422, and I was late. I was looking for the lift, and when I got there, there's already 25 people waiting. I see the lift button is already illuminated. At that point, what would you do? I'm due downstairs in the ballroom. What would you do if I was you or you were me? I was tempted for a moment to do something totally crazy. I was actually tempted to go and press that lift button more than once. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, put your hands up if you've ever done that. If you've ever touched the lift button more than once. Let's have a look around. Wave your hands. Listen, my friends. What was I thinking? What was I thinking? That I could possibly alter the software of the lift company simply by pressing the button more than once? Now, you're laughing, but actually very intelligent people do this. And not just entrepreneurs, which we have here, bankers, which we have, and so on. Actually, airline pilots do it too. I asked 1,000 airline pilots this question. They all put their hands up and they laughed. I said, put your hands up if you talk to your plane. Come on, baby, it's time to land. Actually, I can tell you 95% of airline pilots also talk to their planes. My friends, listen. If you look at the subprime crisis, which became the credit crunch, if you look at the fears of deflation, or whether you're going to get your venture capital signed, I promise you this, the most important word of the future is emotion. It's the passions people have, and as you show me, you are just as irrational as I am when you are under pressure. And so are bankers, so are investors, and even so are entrepreneurs. And whether an innovation actually succeeds in our world to change the future depends on passion. It depends on a man or a woman with faith in what they're doing and the vision to believe that they can do it, do something great and inspiring, and make a wonderful profit by improving people's lives at a price they can afford. And when these things happen, you get emotion connected with logic, connected with technology, connected with finance, connected with new regulation, connected with a public movement of enthusiasm, and that technology will go bang. Okay, what about the future? Does this matter? The fact that in the last 12 months alone, America alone has coated the entire world with an additional blanket of 1/3 of a meter of carbon dioxide, and China has done more. Does it matter? It probably does. How much it matters, we don't know. So this graph is a graph of 450,000 years of ice samples showing temperature, we think, and carbon dioxide levels and the relationship between them. But we have no idea, really, what the future will be in 2050 from this graph. Science gives us a guess. But remember, the future is not about the science, it's about emotion. My friends, I can tell you a guess about the world in 2100 from this graph. But what you need to tell me is this. Put your hands up if you think that people in your country, we have 35 countries here, the people in your country are more passionate every week about the worries they have on global warming and climate change. Put your hands up if you think that's a growing passion right now. Put your hands up. Last 4 years ago, you could hardly find a head of state talking about global warming. Today, you hardly find a head of state that doesn't. Why? Politicians are populists. They go with the mood of the people, and they know that passion is here. So if you want to know the future, within sustainability even for those who don't get it as a moral issue, they have to get it from an economic issue, a marketing issue, a sales issue, an image issue, and all innovation is doing it different. That's what it's all about. So I'm looking at what I've calculated just in environment alone. We could talk about medicine and other areas of sustainability, but just in carbon technology alone, a $40 trillion carbon boom, and many of you here will exchange business cards during these 2 days. Many of you here will form new partnerships as a result. Listen, my friends, if we don't do that, let's go home now. Huh? Life's too short to come to forums to simply entertain ourselves. We are far too busy for that, and the world's situation is much too serious. No, my friends, this forum is about, as Johan said, it's about engagement of capital with ideas, multinationals and distribution, manufacturers and technology, and let's change the world. Let me give you some quick examples of no-brainers and how they can easily do it. I'm going to show you some things which will change the world, assuming oil prices stay above about $70 a barrel. They will change the world just with market forces, and the thing that slows it down is simply because people's business cards have not been exchanged. The dinners have not been had. The arrangements have not yet been made. So let's make history today. Let's make more history tomorrow. Here's an example of a no-brainer technology. 70% of new buildings in this country have heat pumps. We'll hear about that a little bit later. 45% of new buildings in New Zealand. 30% in Switzerland. What are they? It's like a refrigeration unit, but it can pump heat in a house or out of it and do it with up to 50% energy saving. Payback period 15 years. You can build it into the price of every property. In my country, 0% of buildings are built with heat pumps. In France, nearly 0%. In Spain, 0%. What? This is a zero-cost technology because the payback is built into the capital of the building. It pays for itself. It's free. Why don't we roll it out across the whole of Europe? Do you know how big this market is? It's $30 billion a year, 30 billion euros a year in the EU alone. If only half of all new homes in the UK over the next 20 years are installed, that will give us a plus retrofit of 1% per year of other homes. We will see sales just in the UK of 10 to 15 billion pounds a year. Put your hands up if you'd be interested in a business opportunity like that. My friends. So, put your hands up if you're in this technology. Only 2, 3. May the good Lord help us. What's wrong? Why aren't the business cards being exchanged? This is a technology, this is last century technology. We just need to roll it out, and we could change Europe. Here's another example. Polymer concrete, these are all online. Polymer concrete is a special kind of concrete. Did you know 7% of all carbon dioxide worldwide is concrete? 40% of it is used in China. But we can save half of that carbon dioxide by special formulation using things like waste from power stations. Potential sales in the EU, 5 billion a year. Oh, then there's rebalancing air conditioning. Any building like this, which is more than 15 years old, we can save up to 30% of energy and do it for free. Johnson Controls already does this. They come along and say, Tom, you have a big building. Would you like to save a huge amount of energy? He says, yes. What does it cost? They say, 0. He says, don't be ridiculous. It is really 0. We do the free consulting. We do free survey. We install all the technology for free. We do all the new digital controls for free. We put new heat exchangers in for free. He says, how do you get paid? He said, give me your electricity bills for the last 3 years. Then give me the electricity bills for the next 4 years. Whatever the difference is, you pay us. But after that, you keep all the profit. Put your hands up if you think that's a nice business. You know, there are companies doing this. They cannot keep up with the demand. Why? Because it's a no-brainer, isn't it? 30% energy saving on every large building in Stockholm. Hello? We can fix these problems. This is yesterday's technology. What about tomorrow? We're going to hear about tomorrow's technology in a moment. Here's another example. Yesterday's technology, but let's just do it. 5% of the whole European Union electricity comes from street lamps. That's the use of it. We can reduce that to 2%. That's a saving of 3% of the energy of Sweden, 3% of UK, 3% of Spain, France, Italy, and we can do it for 0 cost. Why? What's your name? Fred. I say, Fred, you are responsible for the city of, let's say, Copenhagen. I am going to do a deal with you. I'm going to come and replace all your street lamps, if you like, and save you 3% of the entire energy consumption of your city. Are you interested? You say, yes. How much does it cost me? I say, 0. I've got an arrangement here with Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse is providing us a special financing package, which we're going to pay for out of the money we save you each year for the next 4 years on the electricity bill. And you know what? After that, it's all free. The lights will last 15 years before they need to be replaced, and you get 11 years of 3% energy saving. In fact, 65% saving on all your city heating costs. Are you interested? Sure. Okay, here's another one. Oh, by the way, what's the size of that market? 15 billion euros a year over 15 years. Put your hands up if you're interested in that business. My friends, what's stopping it? I cannot imagine. Because some crazy person decided not to have lunch at Globe Forum with someone else. Let's make these things happen. These are no-brainers. We should be doing these things across the whole of Europe. And then we could talk about electric cars and the re-engineering of plug-in sockets. And we can talk, here's a great thing. I'm nearly out of time, but I hope you're starting to get excited. Here's another example. British Sugar, they're in the business of making sugar. But they make their own power, actually. They take gas from the North Sea, they burn it, and they make electricity, and they cook their sugar. They cook the sugar with the heat from this big gas turbine. It's like a jet engine. Then they had a bright idea. We're already collecting the heat. Why don't we collect the gas? So they put a massive pipe. I mean, it's a huge pipe. Can you imagine a jet engine? You take all the gas from the pipe, a great big pipe. You run the pipe for 2.5 kilometers in length, and at the end is the largest greenhouse in Europe, growing tomatoes. And you use warm gas full of carbon dioxide. It would kill you if you stay in the greenhouse for long. but you know what? It cooks tomatoes. That greenhouse used to make 35 million tomatoes a year. Now, in the same space, they get 70 million tons of tomatoes. 70 million tomatoes. All of you have eaten tomatoes from this greenhouse, cooked from the exhaust of a jet engine. How cool is that? And they were half the price than otherwise. Isn't that a great idea? My friends, these are examples of hundreds, thousands of innovations. I'm nearly out of time. One final thought. Be careful. I said the future's about emotion. Emotions can change. Emotions affect government policy, so government policy can change. Who here is into biofuels, biomass in any way? Be careful, my friends. This is a great technology, very exciting, but the winds of change are coming. You see, if you talk to an 11-year-old and you say, and they watch a TV program on your channel, and they see starving people in Ethiopia. And they say, Daddy, why are people starving? And you say, it's not true really, but you say, there isn't enough food in the world. It's not true, there is actually, but there are problems of distribution. But we need a green revolution. Africa needs a green revolution and innovation like India had in the 1970s. Old technology, we just need to roll it out. But they say, oh, so there's not enough food in the world. How terrible. 1 billion people are hungry. Then they watch your science program next. And the science program is very excited because it's talking about this. And it says, isn't it exciting? 1 in 5 tons of all US grain last year was burnt in cars. Isn't that wonderful? We have this wonderful way of burning food in airplanes. Isn't that great? You can fly your business Learjet carrying 1 passenger, and you can burn all the food you like. And it's 100% carbon neutral. Hello? I don't think I want to be in that business. Why? Because of the 10-year-olds that don't quite get it. And then it's the 15-year-olds. And then it's the government people. I was talking to the Minister of Transport from the President Obama's administration last Thursday and challenging him on this issue. Because this policy is unsustainable in my view. There are plenty of biomasses we can use, and we'll hear about them, but let's not burn food for fuel. If you do it, my friends, you create a single market. So when the oil price next goes up to $150 a barrel, I promise you, you will again see a human spike, a spike in the food prices. We've already seen Food riots in 33 nations last year. Food went up and because oil went up, partly because. We can debate about the relationship, but the UN said this. The United States and the European Union, that's us, have taken a criminal path by contributing to an explosive rise in global food prices through using food crops to produce biofuels. Put your hands up if you believe that statement. Put your hands up if you think it's a little bit exaggerated. I don't care. I don't care what you think. The future is not about your thoughts, it's about emotion. And what do you think the general public thinks, those on $1 a day in Ethiopia? What do you think they think? I promise you they believe this. So, take care, my friends. Let's invest in things which capture passion, are morally right, and make sense from the scientific point of view. And let's make our world a different and a better place. And you know, we could talk about wind power or the fact that we've got 120,000 terawatts of sunlight coming down on the Earth. We have 7,000 times the amount of sunlight coming to the Earth than we need to generate all the power we use today. Solar cells are going to fall dramatically. They've already fallen 33% in the last month or two. They will fall to a point where you can afford to put them on every roof in the whole of Europe. We could talk about fusion and fission and next generation nuclear. Nuclear will be absolutely huge. But we need 100,000 small innovations to make next generation nuclear work. We can talk about carbon trading. We can talk about removing the gas and putting it back under the ground. That, by the way, is a $1 billion market. Sorry, a $500 billion market every year. We have the technology already, Vattenfall are doing it, to capture every molecule of carbon dioxide from every coal-fired power station that's near an oil field. This is yesterday's technology. It can pay for itself with carbon trading. Let's get on with it. So with that, I'd just like to say we are in for a great time. You know, Moore's law tells us that knowledge doubles every 2 years. Well, actually, I think that scientific knowledge is doubling every 10 months, every 10 to 12 months. That means, you know what? In 10 years' time, we will know 1,000 times more than we know today about some of the technologies you hear about in a few seconds. In 20 years' time, we'll know 1,000,000 times more than we know today about some of the technologies you are using today in nanotech. In 30 years' time, we will know, by 2040, we will know 1 billion times as much science as we know today about next generation technologies. Things that you and I think are science fiction today. I say again, my friends, this is fixable. Sustainability, we can do it. We can provide what our society needs, and we can do it in a great way. And our theme, of course, is making life better for you as individuals, for your families, for the communities in which we live, and for our wider world. I thank you very much.